Hello, welcome to Breakaway with Dawn and Friends. I am so excited to have this conversation. Hello, everyone. Hello, Claudia.
Hello, Don. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. I couldn't wait to talk to you, Claudia. Just for knowledge for everyone else, Claudia and I are not meeting every week now. It's every other week, so I really do miss her and can't wait to talk to her.
I miss you
So,
too, Don. I enjoy
thank
these
you.
conversations.
Yes. So I do want to share that I had something in mind to talk about, and then the last minute I just had to change it for a couple reasons. One is it's relatable to me, and it was like not an epiphany, but a thought I had between my relationship. Then I watch, my reality TV, and I saw something very interesting that I'm like, I'm sure we all go through. At the same time, I'm coming to my own realization. And then talking to a friend today, she was telling me about an incident with her and her husband, and I couldn't help but to laugh. And I was like,
Right.
oh my God, I have to talk about this today with Claudia.
Right.
It's communication.
Oh, look at that.
And I feel I had to talk about it because regardless if you're single, in a relationship, we all have friends, we deal with people in general, right?
We do.
So
Yes.
we all have to communicate. You
Yes.
can't get around that.
There's no way around it. It is
Right?
one of
And
the
so
laws that we all must abide to.
and so I would like to make this conversation for everybody, right? So, but of course, I'm going to share, two of the reasonings of, I'll go into a little more detail, but I was just thinking it's useful for everyone because I have really been pushing self awareness, and I've been posting about people, reflecting and just thinking about these things. And so I really think that if you're having trouble with communicating with anyone in any settings, I really think that it'll be food for thought for you to really think about it, right? So hopefully we can throughout this conversation provide some insight and some tips and stuff. But I really do want you guys to sit and reflect about where, like, whatever relationship or friendship, whatever it is, whatever work, professional, personal, whichever one it is, I really, if you're having trouble with one of those or both of those, I really want you to sit and reflect on this because you'll be surprised. And oh my gosh, I'm like, oh, I just want to spit it all out. But I will say, on top of, like I said, my relationship, right? I will share that. But I had a reaction to something else yesterday, and I called my friend and I'm telling her, and she's like, okay, and we're two opposite people. And I told her, the funny thing is, I literally was like, okay, Dawn, why is this bothering you? Why are you? And do you know what's so funny? And I've told you guys this many, many, many times. This is why I'm a life coach, because I always question myself.
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting here posting and telling people, like, seriously, this is what you do, I truly do it.
Right.
I
You put
truly
it into
like, okay,
practice, huh? Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm like, but it just comes, like I told you, naturally. And I'm like, and I just laugh when I find myself life coaching myself. I can't help it, right? But it's like I said, it's something I've always done.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, girl, to myself, why do you feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
What is really bothering you? Like, what, like, and it's so, and then, so and I'm telling her, girl, I'm asking myself this. This is what I'm telling myself. It was funny. So, she's sitting there like, hi, Dawn, and I said, well, what would you do? And then, of course, she does the opposite of what I do. I go, no, 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 but it's not fair. It has to be the same scenario, right? And she's like, yeah, but I would have never initially reacted that way. Yeah, but I just said you did. So what would you do? And it's not that I was trying to get the same answer. Like, I wanted her to truly see it from a
Mhm.
different perspective, right? So,
Right.
anyways, so I thought today when I was talking to her again about her husband, oh my, I just laughed and I'm like, okay, we have to talk about communication today because it came up for me a couple times.
One
And then
too
I
many
saw it
times.
on one of my
Sure.
favorite, not favorite shows, but one of my shows. And then she expressed a situation with her husband, and all of it was surrounding communication. And it was just funny. So
Yeah. So that's the universe saying you have to talk about it because it came up
yes,
one too many times,
yes, drum roll. Yes. And then, I like to have these conversations with you because I know you probably deal with this on a day to day. So I would, want you to like come in with any of the tools and different insights, right? That
Sure.
you can help us with, right?
Okay.
Okay. So me and my reality TV guys, So I was watching The Valley. Okay, it's a new show on Bravo, I believe. And I told myself I wouldn't watch it, but I watched it. And they're going through it. These couples are going through it. And so they went to Big Bear for a moon, what is that, moon party or something? Like
Hmm.
when you're about to give birth, it's your last,
Oh,
I don't even know.
right.
Okay, but I've heard it
Right.
before, but
It's
it's a moon party, right?
the
So they
party
go in there.
before you give birth and you become parents, basically.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Right. So they take 4 or 5 couples, whatever. So it was hilarious. So the women obviously are cooking in the kitchen. The guys are outside. And the one guy, like, oh my God, my heart went out to him. He's like trying so hard not to cry. He's emotional. And he's like, I'm going through it. You guys don't even know I'm having such a hard time. And they're like, what? Like, what are you going through? What's the problem? You don't get it. Like, I'm sleep deprived,
No.
like because he has little 6-week-old babies right now, and then he has a toddler, and his poor wife is going through post menopause, right? Post menopause? No, no, no.
Oh,
Sorry, what
postpartum.
menopause? Oh my God,
Postpartum.
Dawn,
It's okay.
menopause is on my mind.
Yes.
Postpartum.
There you go.
So the poor couple is really going through it, and from the editing, I don't know for real, like, but it seems like he's very hands on and he does help, right? So the poor guy is working full time, getting up in the middle of the night several times, helping her. She's at home overwhelmed, all of these things, right? So neither of them, by the way, are complaining about each other, but they're just having their own struggles. And it's so
Mhm.
sad because they're trying so hard to help each other,
Mhm.
right? And they're just struggling, but
Right.
just emotionally, not as a couple. Okay. So
Right.
now all the other couples, one other one obviously is about to have the baby, so he's excited, and I felt bad for him because he's listening to these 4 other men complain about being married and having kids, and it's just so funny. They're like literally raining on his parade. It was so
Right.
funny. So then one of the couple, he's in denial that his marriage is gonna be ending, and the other one is like, I don't know what to do. I know it's ending, and I don't know what to do. Right. So they're all talking about their struggles. And it was so funny because they say, women are just never gonna appreciate it. They're never really gonna appreciate you and what you do. And of course, I start laughing like, okay, dude, really, right? Because So then, the editing was so good. They flip over to the women complaining about their husbands,
Sure.
and so I just thought that was so. So I'm watching this, thinking this is so hilarious, and I'm like, oh my God, that is so us with our girlfriends. Like these guys just don't get it. They're never gonna understand. And then you have the men on the other side. They're never gonna appreciate it. And
Essentially saying the same thing from two different perspectives, right?
right.
Right.
So you have two sides, okay, communicating, but they're not hearing each other, right?
Right.
So I was thinking about that and thinking about, like, for me, like in my relationship, like I told you guys, I'm a be somewhat open. I went through that last year, that emotional thing. And so, we're still adjusting because it's a change for me, right? Because now
Right.
I'm more vulnerable and open in that sense. And
Hmm.
so, you know, my husband's like, you're never going to be happy. It's not that. It's like, I am, and I see certain things have changed and certain things are good, but
Right.
I truly feel that you don't get it. You don't understand.
Hmm.
So if you're not going to understand where I'm coming from and why something bothers me,
Hmm.
how do you expect to, I'm not saying I want to change, but understand it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like he just thinks, okay, I'm going to do this and we're fine. No, no, no. Right.
Right.
So I just had an epiphany, like, oh my God, like he thinks I'm never going to be happy. It's not that. I'm happy. I like it. I like to see that. That helps me keep going if I see the change, right? I see it.
Right. Right.
But it's like, I know that he doesn't get it. I know that he doesn't understand it. And he's refusing to. Like, he's not hearing me, I feel.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So I don't feel heard. And then he doesn't feel appreciated.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh my God, this is going to be a
Right.
vicious,
Vicious cycle.
yes.
Hmm.
Like,
Right.
now, the hard part for me is that I can see this. So I can make a change. I can do something.
Hmm.
But it's just so hard, Claudia, when the other side of that can't see it.
Right.
So then, in a way, like, how can I expect something to be different if
Right.
from
Well,
him?
right. If he doesn't see what you see and vice versa. And I think that's the bigger question, right? Where couples or a relationship, friendship struggles because each one of us are individuals. So we individualize things according to our own perspectives, right? So it's difficult for us to see somebody else's perspective and vice versa. And a lot of times we are very focused on getting that other person to see our perspective, right? And we draw our own conclusions about why they can't see our perspective. But reality is that we too need to be open to the fact that they cannot see our perspective, right? And that's the bigger
Mhm.
challenge, because the focus here should be individualization. So how do we attend to our needs so that if I'm fulfilled in some way, then I can essentially fulfill my spouse, right? Or help them see from my perspective. We can't force anyone to see your perspective.
Mm-mm.
That is just not going to happen. So then why spend so much time trying to quote unquote change the other person, right? Or the frustration, or you just said right now, I think he may be refusing to see my version or from the lens that I'm looking at. It may not be that. It may that be that that person doesn't have the capacity to see it from your perspective. And they're not
Mhm.
supposed to necessarily. But then how do you come to the middle and agree? Like this is what I need of you, and vice versa. This is what I need from you. And then come to the middle, a midpoint, so that you both can agree. And sometimes you're going to agree to disagree, right?
Yeah.
Which is very frustrating. And it's not always a feel good moment. But I think going back to how you opened this conversation today is communication,
Mhm.
right? What is it that you need from me so that I can maybe see it from your perspective, right? If that person's able to articulate that and tell you, this is how I would preferably like, or this is what would help me. Again, without the intention that we're trying to change the person.
Yeah. I swear I hear you. Um, and for me, in this scenario, it's
Mm-hmm.
not about, I don't think it's about changing the person,
Okay.
right? I just think that, like, for instance, an example,
Mm-hmm.
I'm, I'm an early worm gets the worm, an early bird gets the worm person, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm very routine. I get up. I mean, I'm go, 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 go morning. And oh my God, he's not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's a night owl. And
Okay.
he's always been like, he likes to sleep in, get up late. And so, like, it's not like a problem. And I'm not trying to change him, right? But it's like, it's not conducive for a family. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so let's say it's something like that, right? Where
Okay.
I get up, going through my day, and then
Right.
when I come to like, whew, USA, settle down,
Mm-hmm.
he's the opposite, ready to like, and I'm like, whoa, 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 like I just had a whole day. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so when this is what I'm like, my situation is similar to that, where we just don't see it the same way, right? So
Right.
like, there's no reason for you to be a night owl or to be, like that. You're choosing
Mm-hmm.
to have your day like that, right?
Right.
And you see the effect that it has, right? So then, like, you get to a point where, okay, well, then, and maybe I won't sleep as much and I'll get more done for her. That's not what I'm asking. It's
Okay.
the quality that I want,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the quantity. And this
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm saying. If the person can understand what I'm asking for, which
Sure.
is quality of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Right.
not the quantity aspect of it, like, oh, well, I'm spending more time with you guys. Yeah, but you're tired. You're
Mm-hmm.
not so present. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, you don't like, so this is what when I mean, like, he'll just, yes, the efforts are there. Okay, I'm going to do more, but I'm not asking for you to do more. I'm asking for things to be more quality driven than, are
Right.
you
Then the
following me? Right.
quantity.
So this is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, if this person would get, and so in his mind is, I'm doing more. How are you not happy that I'm doing more? Well, I'm not asking for you to do more.
Right.
Right. So this is what I mean, that struggle is like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm asking for the quality part of it to be more there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want you to do, I want more from you, or you for you to do more. Like,
Right.
just adjust yourself a little bit so that
Yeah.
it's more conducive to our I mean, we all have schedules here.
Right.
You know
Right.
what
Right.
I mean? Like, it's,
Yeah.
this is what I mean.
Yeah. So what would you think, maybe the meet point there, the mid in between. So what if you not waking up so early and maybe waking up a little bit later so that he doesn't feel like he has to wake up early? So what would be the midpoint maybe? Or schedule a time somewhere where after he gets his quality sleep, I was going to say beauty sleep, after he gets his quality sleep, that he can then say, okay, now I feel like I'm at my best at 3 p.m. So that's where I function more. Let's say on the weekend or whatever, you know?
Hmm.
And then you are like, okay, great. 3 p.m. is great because more or less because, um, I'm still not going to decline. I'm not going down the slope yet. I still have
Hmm.
enough energy where we're able to spend time together, where it's
Right.
quality, right?
Right.
Instead of quantity. So, but without, again, you don't want to make adjustments to you waking up because your routine is set. He doesn't probably want to make adjustments because that's his routine. Is it conducive for a family? Maybe not. But then what would we do in those situations where, let's say, he had an evening graveyard shift and you had a morning early shift?
So
You,
that's the problem. That's how it's
mhm.
always been, right? So
Okay.
I've always
Yeah.
worked graveyard. So when I
Yeah.
met him, I've always worked graveyard. So I've
Hmm.
always up in the at 2 a.m. going to work, right? So
Right.
I always handled the morning, and then he would always have to handle the night. And I'm sure many people have this struggle where,
Yeah.
life, because of kids. And by the way, I get up at the end of the day, I don't have a choice. I have to get up and get these kids up to school. So I
Right.
have to get up early, right? So it's, the morning has always been my job. So I get up and I handle the morning, right?
Hmm.
So I don't get the luxury to sleep in,
Right.
even though
Right.
I am a morning person. I
Right.
get up extra early so I can have that time to myself, so I can meditate and just have me to collect myself. So
Right.
that I won't give up. But I have thought about doing it at night. But as we all know, it's too chaotic at night because everyone wants something from you, right? So
Right.
in order for me to be the best me, I need that time to myself, right?
Right.
So, but it wouldn't have to be so early in the morning if I wasn't the only one responsible to get
Mm.
them up and get them out to school on time, you see? So there's the
Sure.
catcher there. So it's not that I'm not willing to not be flexible. It's,
Right.
hello, like they have to get up and go to school and be at school at a
Hmm.
certain time. And let me tell you, the days that I don't and I take my butt to work, oh, do you think
Hmm.
they get to school on time? I always get calls. They were late. Like, oh, it's so frustrating. So it's like, I have to be there to
Yeah.
get them out. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, this is not something, not to be funny, that's simple to do, right?
Right.
But,
Right.
but, we were always that way. And so I think this is where people struggle later in life. Like, if you don't figure this
Mhm.
out now, and then when those
Yeah.
kids go away,
Right.
ooh, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
imagine if we're still on two opposite schedules. I don't know how that's going to work. Like, you're
Right.
just, to me, the distance is just going to grow more and more and more.
Right. Right. And it
And
could
so
lead to
remember that
that.
that person that
Mhm.
wasn't so vulnerable didn't have an issue because
Right.
I wasn't emotionally needy,
Right. Right.
right? So this worked out for 20 years.
Right.
But
Exactly.
now, when you think of who I am today and what happened last year and
Hmm.
how, it changed me emotionally,
Right.
this no longer works.
Right. Right.
Does that
Because now
make sense
you're,
now?
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So then going back to that, it's compromising, right? Is part of the relationship, that when we are in relationships is about compromising, is not giving only one-sided or one person giving 110%, right?
Yeah.
It's communicating that to your significant other or to whoever it is that you're trying to communicate, is, I feel that I need this. So it would make me feel appreciated by you supporting me during the, let's say in this example, morning routine. But it's also how we communicate, Don, right? Because when
Hmm.
we have a preset agenda of how we would like, quote, want things, it's great and wonderful. But if one delivers it in such a way where you come off as a dictator, then that person will shut down and will say,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what you say, how you say it, I'm not doing it, because
Hmm.
you are now telling me what to do. You're not asking, you're not suggesting, you are flat out telling me this is what you have to do. And that I don't think anyone's gonna receive that information well,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. No, so it was just, in all honesty, I just thought it was funny because I'm sitting there. I watched that show last Tuesday and
Uh-huh.
thought it was hilarious, like seeing how women communicate versus men. And, and then it hit me the other day, like days after, because obviously I don't, it must have stayed in the forefront of my mind, right? Because it was
Right.
so funny. Because then when he's just like, you're never gonna be happy. It's like, no, but it's not about that. Like, so it's so funny. And I literally said, I don't think you understand. If you try to understand, I truly think that you would have a different perspective on this. Like, you can see it differently. Like, I just don't feel you're choosing to understand the why.
Hmm.
You think, oh, I know what she wants, so I'm going to do this.
Right.
Like, you're doing that. I'm not asking for that. You're doing things that I'm not asking you for. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Right.
not asking you to do that. So, and, like, remember, I work in the health field. I worked with a lot of people, and it's like, sleep is so important. A routine is so important. And it's like when I see certain habits from people, and it's like,
Yeah.
trust me, you don't want to pay that price later in life. Like,
Right.
this is where the quality part comes in. It's like,
Right.
I don't think people, and this poor guy on the show is like, I'm so sleep deprived. I really don't think people really
Right.
think about like those things. And it really does
Absolutely. It
affect
eats at
you.
you. It affects your functioning. If you don't have the
Mhm.
solid routine, then how do you expect to be productive, right? How do you
Yeah.
expect to be productive when you don't have a quality life of a routine is everything.
Hmm.
That's how you get things
Hmm.
done.
Yeah.
And some people don't probably have a routine because they hesitate or they procrastinate because I don't think people at times see themselves as valuable to
Hmm.
know that you know what, I deserve to have a quality routine because this is
Yes.
going to help me in the long run, right?
Yes. I know, and that's so funny that you bring that up too, because
Hmm.
I'm all about self love, and if you sit and really reflect, like, why am I living like this? Why am I doing this? And I think if you really do dig down deep, you're gonna see you don't feel worthy of something, and that's why. And
Exactly.
it's just,
Mhm.
whew, it could be so profound, but it's like you got to do the work, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely, Don. And I think that's, these are good conversations to have when we're, the fact that you're bringing up this topic is so important, right? Because it ties back to, communication, which goes back to self worth, which goes back to if I don't feel worthy enough to even bring this up, then why let my partner know what I feel or what I'm thinking or what I would like? It's not, they're likely not going to listen, or they likely quote unquote not going to care. No, it's just that's, I think, a reflection of how they feel
Hmm.
inside, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And to take this just a little outside, like, let's say this is you have a professional situation, right?
Hmm.
I've seen it too, where I've seen two people interact, and most maybe because I have, when I'm watching them, I know both sides and I know what
Hmm.
each of them want. And
Sure.
when you see them interact, I know why that person is saying what they're saying, instead of just saying it direct, right? Being very clear, right? Like,
Yes.
they go, it's like a roundabout way. And then you see the other one, because you're professional, you want to tread lightly. So then you see this like, and it's just comical to me because I am straight and to the point. Like, I don't
Hmm.
fluff. Like,
Hmm.
and this is even, it was even at work, like someone told me, like, oh my God, like, I have to say kudos to you. Like, you got it. Like, you know how to just come in and say what needs to be said and be effective. Like, it really is a skill to do that, right?
Right.
And so even like professionally, like, I see people like if you're just coming with the complaints, or if you're just coming with what I'm just going to say complaints, and if you're not communicating effectively, like, you're not going to get anywhere, like. So I just, if you sit and reflect on, again,
Hmm.
what is it that I feel?
Right.
Why do I feel this way?
Hmm.
Right? I think that if you sit and ask yourself these questions, you'd be surprised, the answer, it will come to you.
Hmm.
I think, what was the other thing I said? I said, because I did post about this, right?
Yeah.
So, where was it? I said, yeah. So, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling? And then, how are my emotions influencing my actions?
I like that. That is big. The fact that the emotions, how do the emotions influence my decision making? That's everything. That's a lot.
Right?
If we allow to get the best of us, right? And I mean, but sorry, I want to go back to what you said, that the skill set to be able very to be very just cut to the chase, right? I'm going to be very
Mhm,
direct. This is what I'm going to say. This
mhm,
is, I mean, it would save us from so many ongoing discussions and disputes if we were all that way, right?
mhm,
And again, it's a skill set. I'm sure
mhm,
not, some people may perceive that as, oh, wait a minute, that's a little too much for me to take in. Or somebody might be like, oh, I love this style. This works for me.
mhm.
And I think my point is that everyone has to find, their own way of communicating, their own style, I should say, um, so that you can, what is it? I guess relay the message that you're trying to say in such a way where you get your point across,
Mhm,
right? Not being
mhm.
wishy washy or being around the bush, because you could save a lot of time and energy if you're clear and concise, and not expect your significant other or the person receiving the message know what you're talking about if you're not clear with your
Yeah,
message,
yeah,
right? A lot of things get lost in translation that way.
yeah. So I like what you're saying. Like that's not like for me. Like that's a personal, right? But even professional. Like I'm such a I advocate for people to be their own advocate, right? Tell your boss, your supervisor, your coworker, like let it be known. This is what I need, so how can we meet? You know what I mean? Like what, or like this is how I deal. Like I just think that people, need to do this more. Like it's okay to say that doesn't work for me. Like I work like this or like that. Like, like for
Mhm.
instance, like I remember one time my boss coming up to me telling me some random comment that someone gave to her, and it was so funny. And because I can be so short and direct,
Mhm.
it was one of the pathologists. And at that point, I didn't have freaking patience for them. They're like big babies, and it's like, good Lord, are you a professional or not? But so I remember her coming down, and I just knew it was, and I said, can I just tell you what you're doing right now and the way you're presenting this to me is going to go in one ear and out the other. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, because you're being around the bush and you're just not telling me, Dawn, you did this. Don't do that again. Because right now you're being so broad, like it does nothing for me.
Right.
Because I know for a fact I have not spoken to anyone, any of them. I have not said anything to any of them. Like this is so left field for me. So it's like now you have me questioning these last 2 weeks. What have I said or done? Because I haven't even like we're gonna go in this circle. So I literally
Mhm.
told her, please don't do that. I don't need. I'm not saying I need to know who said what, but you need to be more clear with me so that like I don't do that, because I'm being in charge of production, like I have to make sure these doctors are pushing out just as much as the lab, right? So I'm
Right.
like, so yeah, I'm in there, I'm on them too, like, hey, we have this
Right.
deadline, and so it's my job, so, and it's funny, it just takes one person not to like that, but at the end of the
Mhm.
day, if I have to speak to this not being met, you're going
Right.
to see me in your office, so um it was so funny. And I was like, no, like, and I literally said, with all due respect, that's not working for me. I need you to be more direct and just tell me you are too pushy or don't any
Right.
like give me something, because if it's gonna go in one ear and out the other, because then you're gonna have me thinking from my perspective, what did I say or do, right? You know what I mean? So I
Right.
think it's okay. And I even do that with my kids. Like if you want to take this to your kids, like it's funny, like I do allow them to say things that maybe other parents won't,
Mm.
right? But
Okay.
my thing is, it's not what you're saying to me, it's how you're saying it and your
Right.
delivery, like your tone. Like that's more
Yes.
important to me. Like
Right.
I'm okay if you're like, I'm being too much. Like what you I don't you can say I'm being annoying. Like some people get so offended by that. Yeah, I know I'm being annoying. It's my intention to be annoying. Like,
Right.
but it's like if you're gonna come with me with that attitude and that delivery, oh no, no, no. Now we're gonna like I ain't your friend. You know what I mean? And I tell them
Right.
that all the time. I'm not your friend, like you can tell me what you need to say, but you will
Mhm.
deliver it to me in the right tone and the right way. So
Right.
but it's funny because when other people sometimes they're like, yeah, I do. as long as they say it to me right, they can say whatever needs to be said. So
Mhm.
it's this is me.
Right.
And then, but then I have to teach them, girl, or, you guys, not everyone's like me. Like, you got to tread lightly, like, so then,
Right.
they're just going to have to learn that, so
Right.
whether it's a personal in your relationship, you want to maybe emphasize the feeling more, right?
Mhm.
Because I think if you break it down to how you feel,
Mhm.
with your partner, I think you might get more like, I like when you do this, I feel this, right? Or
Right.
whatever, right?
Right.
And then, if it's your kids, like, I think that, like, again, that delivery and that tone is what they need to understand, right?
Sure.
And then when it comes to like a professional setting, I think it's and again, do not blame me, but I'm going to tell you, for me, I think that going in and letting, whether it's a coworker, a superior, whatever, like, I think it's okay to say, this is like my style, like, I do well with this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And because
Absolutely.
not only are you letting them know, um, I'm not saying it's a weakness, but then they can actually work with you
Right.
on, maybe improving to come outside that box, or,
Right.
you know what I mean, learn how to meet in the middle in a certain situation, right? So I think not only
Mhm.
are you letting them know how to be effective with you, it's
Right.
also giving them the opportunity to try to improve. And I don't want to say improve, but just work with you on
Right.
softening, or I don't know. I think you know what
Right.
I'm trying to say, but
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, absolutely. It's a mutual communication style that you should each have, right? In the professional world, and it's important to let your your supervisor or coworkers, this is what works for me. This is my style of communication. I mean, this is
Mhm.
why they have all these, screening tools and tests that one takes at work, because you want to learn what other people's styles of communication and learning are, because it's important. We spend the other half of our lives at work. We spend so much
Mm,
time outside of our home, and the other life that we have is work. So why not make it a feasible environment, right? Where you look forward to, communicating with people that you work with. Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, my suggestion would be to just reflect more, right? I think that'll be my breakaway tip is, really sit. And I'm telling you, I do it in real time when something is really bothering me. And I'm like, why does
Mhm.
this bother you? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you're feeling? Where is this stemming from? Like, I
Right.
really do think that, just question yourself. Like, even at the end of the day, like, if, let's just say, you don't have good self-awareness, and I'm not, like, this is about communicating, right? So
Right.
you need to learn, what is your style of communicating. So you can't do
Mhm.
that unless you reflect on that, right? So,
Right.
because as a life coach, like, when I meet people, I have to try to figure out, if they don't tell me, are they visual? Because I'm visual, right? Are they
Mhm.
visual? Are they, ones, like, do they need to write things down? Like, are they the type
Mhm.
of person, like, in order for something to stick, or for them, like, they got to write things down? Like,
Right.
there's different styles of, like, communicating with
Learning.
people. So I
Mhm.
think that you need to learn that about yourself, if you don't know
Yes.
that. And you'd be surprised
Right.
how unaware people are of themselves, right?
Right.
So, you know if you're, let's just say, if you don't have that, you need to start with, every day, what went well today, and then what could I improve. So think about,
Mhm.
what can you do better, and
Right.
then how did I feel in different situations. Like, I feel if you can ask yourself those three questions at the end of each day, like, it'll help you to reflect, right?
Right.
um on trying to understand, like, because I'm telling you, oh, this is what I wanted to share when we talked about communication. Really quick, it was funny. So, I started in histology when I was 18. And I
Mhm.
told you guys last time, I was the baby. Like, everyone was so much older. And it was so funny. So, like, and I've always worked two jobs, because I think I told you this before, because I loved in and out, but I got the opportunity at Kaiser. And so I didn't want to let it go. So, like, I'm almost always worked two jobs for like 20 years. It was just in my nature, right?
Right.
And so you can imagine, and different jobs too. Like, I've always had the one consistent, but I would, in histology as well, work like at a different lab. And so I remember one time, like, you talk to your friends all the time, what happens? And then, I don't know, it was so funny. One day she comes to me, and this was a blunt friend, and I appreciate having her. She would always be the one to calm my feet to the fire,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
one time tells me, and I need to tell her this too. So I remember one time her telling me, you don't think you're the common denominator in all of this? I was so offended, right? And she goes, because every job you go to, Dawn, like you have like a problem or something. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't let myself, okay? So, how dare you? Like I was so offended by her, right? So of course, naturally, then I start thinking, frick, is it me? Like, oh my God, am I attracting
Wait
this?
a minute.
Am I causing this? Let me tell you. And through research and just watching things and learning, and you
Yeah.
know what I found out? And I know you're gonna laugh, okay? Because I am not perfect. Boy, we all know I will be the first to tell you my flaws, okay? I am not by any means a perfect individual here, nor do I handle things perfectly, okay?
Right.
But I'm telling you, I had to reflect. Oh, please don't laugh, but I'm not saying I didn't do any wrong in any of those situations, okay? But what I would like to think, do you know that like this is my journey, right? And I firmly believe you go through things,
Mm-hmm.
right, to learn, to help
Right.
shape who you are. God
Absolutely.
knew I was going to be a life coach.
Mm.
And so he put difficult people in my path
There you go.
to understand them,
Right.
to, have these friction moments like because
Absolutely.
I was always open though to learn. Okay, what did I do? What did I say? Like I've always been that way. Like, okay, you
Sure.
know. But I was offended when that girl told me, she goes, I don't know, Dawn, you've had how many jobs now, and there's always something, and I'm like, that's not fair. That's not fair because I'm not one to let myself. So a
Right.
lot of people don't take the time or the energy. They didn't have self worth. I've had self worth. I'm telling you, since I was like 16. Okay, like
Mhm.
so a lot of people didn't have that earlier on, and even adults that I was dealing with, right? So I just thought
Right.
it was funny. So I was like, how dare you? No, I'm actually offended by that. But of course it had me like, fuck, is it me? Like, so then now that like, when I think about my journey and certain things, I'm like, oh my God, like I had to go through those things to learn certain things so
Yes.
that today I can
Yes.
help people. Like I
Absolutely.
really do feel, but it was a part of my growth. So I'm not saying again that I'm innocent, that it wasn't me, but I just feel I was put in situations so that one, I can learn about myself, and then two, learn about people's reactions and how to deal with people. And I feel this is why I'm so good and I can spot certain things is because
Mhm.
I've been there, done that
Right.
kind of a thing, right?
Right.
So um I forgot what led me onto this, but I just remember thinking, oh my God, when we talk about this, I have to tell her because I remember like having that thought, like, I
Right.
remember when I was younger, hothead. Oh, you could not tell me nothing, and like,
Right.
oh, like, and always working with older people. Oh my, it was. I'm telling you, I have stories. I need to do an episode on that, um, but it was funny. But at the end of the day, you need to remain open, right?
Yes.
Like I've told you before, that resistance will meet you with resistance, right?
Right.
So if you
Mhm.
keep fighting that, like you're not going to get past that, like that season's not going to pass fast
Right.
enough, right? Like people come into your life, situations are reasons and seasons, like
Mhm.
everything will pass, right? But
Yes.
it's like if you don't literally give in and let it and open up to learn, like
Mhm.
you're going to continue to have that, right? So
Right.
I know I'm a little here and there with this conversation, but
No, this is
you
great.
know good. I just think like if communication is in any aspect of life, it's you got to be able to communicate well, right? And so if you do have trouble like I did a long time ago, you got to self-reflect, sit and think, okay, like ask yourself these questions
Right.
and then just be more clear, like just be more concise, right? Like
Right.
just, and it's okay, like especially the world we live in today. Like it
Absolutely.
is so much more acceptable to say certain things and to be more open and,
Right.
you know, that whole work-life balance and like,
Mhm.
just there's just so much more now
Right.
and in many ways that this is more acceptable, right? Like, because
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure 20, like, me telling my boss, like, you're not being effective with me right now, like, probably would have got me fired, 20 years ago, right?
Right.
But it's like nowadays you can be like, no, that's not
Right. But
working,
there's
right?
always a respectful way to do it. You could
Yes,
be and get your point across in a very smart, logical way of
Mhm.
expressing yourself, right?
Mhm.
We don't have to
Mhm.
go into cursing people, throwing things, become storming out of an office. I mean, you can get your point across with words if you say it intelligently enough where people can understand. And
Right.
that's, you have to be able to empower yourself to do that, right?
Yes. That's a very good point because, I know people in relationship have done that. They storm off, right? They yell,
Mhm.
storm off. Your kids do it too, or you do it to your kids. And
Right.
then it has happened in professional settings. So I think that's a very valid point, right? Yeah, that's true. Thank you for that. So I just think this was, thank you so much for having this conversation. I just think it was a good one.
It was a
I
good
love
one.
when this happens because I didn't know where we were going to go with this, but
Right.
I just think it's been relevant for me this
Yes.
whole week. I feel like it's been just popping up, and I'm like, okay, we need to talk about communicating
Right.
and I think again, I'm going to repeat it. Just reflect on that. See what it is like. Just the better you know yourself, the better you can treat yourself and show people how to treat you. Point blank.
Absolutely. Period.
On that note, keep thriving, keep shining, and keep conquering.